Hey everybody, so today we're going to talk about the Allies invading Western Europe. The essential questions here: who planned Operation Overlord and where by whom would this invasion take place? What battle was the largest in the European theater, meaning the area of Europe? And what is VE Day and the date? Okay, so the Allies are going to decide that they have to take action in Western Europe and invade. And this just shows you the sort of chart or list here shows you the military chain of command. You have George Marshall as the top U.S. general and also as FDR's chief of staff. You also have General Dwight Eisenhower, who's going to be in charge of the European theater of war, and General Douglas MacArthur, who's going to be in charge of the Pacific theater of war. Okay, so today we're going to focus more on Eisenhower and Marshall in Western Europe. So it says basically we also I should say we have Patton too, and we'll talk about him also. So General Marshall pushes forward, gets the Brits to agree to target German forces in France, and they decide to invade this area of France to bring in the Allies to take on the Germans who are there. And this is called Operation Overlord. Okay, the name given to the operation, and it was launched from Great Britain, planned by Eisenhower. Okay, but it says, however, the Germans are aware that the Allies are probably going to come very soon, so they were getting ready in the process and trying to consider where the Allies would come ashore. It says, along the French coastline, the Germans are going to set up machine gun nests, barbed wire fences, water mines, obstructions in the water, so the boats cannot get there up on the shore very easily. So they're going to be coming across the English Channel from Britain by water and by air. The Americans and the other allies are Britain, some Canadians are going to come in that way. And the Germans sort of know that obviously this is how they're going to come, so they sort of prepare in advance. All right, so Operation Overlord is also known as D-Day. D-Day, the actual date, is June 6th, 1944. Probably another significant date you need to memorize. And it says Utah Beach goes well as German defenses were weak there, but at Omaha Beach, the Americans have about 2,000 casualties. This is the largest amphibious operation in history, meaning we're going to invade by water. Also, with the invasion coming ashore, you also have behind the enemy lines in France to fight the Germans paratroopers who are going to drop from airplanes from the sky into right there at the enemy lines. The problem is they're going to come in too fast, too shallow. Some are going to miss their DZ, and they're just, they're going to have issues with wherever they land. They're not going to know where they are because this is not the area which they prepped to land for. So a lot of them lose their leg bags, which was a bag literally attached to their leg. And because they come in too quickly and too shallow, they're dropped so fast, they literally just, the bag blows off their leg when they hit the air and jumping out of the plane. So some drop with absolutely no weapon. That's going to be a problem. They kind of, once they hit the ground, they try to scramble and try to find weapons that have been dropped from the air, or also soldiers who have been killed, they confiscate their weapons. A couple of pictures, and I'm going to try to show you video from this. Also, not right now, but later in class, and I think that'll help. So here is a picture from the perspective of the troops inside these boats, bringing them ashore. You see here, this is important that you know that the Germans are all up here on this cliff area. And so they had a perfect position to just aim down on the beach as these troops are coming in and going ashore to shoot at them. So very dangerous way to go into France, certainly this was. Also, I want you to see this one, which shows sort of the same thing with the cliffs sort of in the haze over here in the background. But I want you to see, as some of the boats get ashore, these men literally go through the water. Some boats could get closer than others because of the obstructions. But the objective was get off the boat, get up to the cliffs underneath as quickly as you possibly could. Um, and here's one of the fortifications I was discussing. So this shows, I mean, see, these guys got out of the boat way back here and had to wade ashore. So they're also going to lose some of their equipment in the water and issues with their equipment getting wet. But anyway, these are some of the obstructions that meant that the boats couldn't come closer. The paratroopers I was discussing, we're going to watch some of Band of Brothers in class. That's about the 101st Screaming Eagles. These guys are going to jump out of the planes and across enemy lines further into France and land in the darkness of night, early morning. And again, they're going to go in too fast, too shallow. There's a lot of German anti-air craft, like missiles and shooting at these planes, and so you're going to see a lot of planes go down, and some pilots really try to push everybody out sooner than they should have just to get out of there. Okay, so that's that part. I also want you to see that within a week, 500,000 Allied troops have come ashore in France. So it's definitely been a massive influx of Allied troops into France. Patton uses his own blitzkrieg to burst out of Normandy and sweeps across northern France quite successfully. Patton is probably one of the most successful generals in American history. The Germans feared him, and there are a few that he actually feared, that they feared militarily, but they're going to fear him. He is almost a military genius, you could argue. So he's going to use his own blitzkrieg and sweep across northern France. By August 25th of 44, the Allies will liberate Paris. So the Germans will be taken down in Paris, France, and the Allies are definitely seeing success there. Then comes the German counterattack. So this was sort of their way, the Germans, of really making their final stand. And it says they counterattacked in Belgium and Luxembourg. If you remember from class where Belgium is from the map I showed you there. And the Germans were going to smash into the U.S. First Army and push it back. That pushing back actually created a bulge. So the Americans are trying to get into Belgium. The Germans are in Belgium pushing the Americans back into France and taking more of that French territory back themselves. So it says it formed a bulge in the Allied line, and the battles here are forever called Battle of the Bulge. Now you may see it as the Ardennes Forest, Battle of the Ardennes Forest. That's the same thing. It's freezing, freezing cold weather. So it's in the winter. Belgium winters are just frigid. One of the interviews I watched, one of the soldiers mentioned, he said, now this is a recent interview, he said in his interview, he said, you know, it's so cold, and on such cold nights at home, he tells his wife, I'm really glad that we're not in Bastogne. So it is so, so cold. It says they did not have proper gear, and the German attack was absolutely ferocious in the Ardennes Forest. So they set off their cannons and made it where the artillery, the cannon fire would go off in the trees. So there was just this constant explosion of trees within that forest. So you would have trees falling on you. I mean, the Americans are in the forest. The Germans are in a town called Foy, and they're pushing into this forest, and the Americans are trying to hold the line there at the forest, and they're not letting them in. So it says incoming cannons were set to go off in those trees. This battle is the largest in the European theater during World War II. The Allies in the United States do win this. I want to show you a picture of the troops marching into Bastogne, and you see all the snow. It was awful. Okay, they did not have proper gear, even though this looks fairly nice, you know, like they have some winter coats and things, but they're only going to have 2 pairs of socks. They're going to have tons of issues with trench foot and hypothermia and frozen feet, all kinds of issues with frostbite. It's going to be really, really bad. And Bastogne was just a place that they really thought they had to hold, or it was going to be over for the Americans and the Allies. Another picture is just an example of an army patrol in the forests, and you see how much snow is here. So really, really difficult to maneuver in and so cold. And also a current picture in this same forest, in the Ardennes forest, of a foxhole that was dug all those years ago. So these men would dig these foxholes and sit in them, and most of the time were not allowed to have a fire because it would signal to the Germans where they were. The Germans are out here in the town of Foy shooting off the artillery into this forested area. Okay, so that's all I want to show you there. It says the Eastern European front, so the Germans and the Soviets on the Eastern European front continue to battle to the point that at one time there's 9 million soldiers fighting at once. 11 million Soviet soldiers die and 3 million Germans. Now, we talked about the Battle of Stalingrad, how significant that was for the Russians, that they won that battle and defeated Germany. Those types of battles continue here, and I just want to point out the massive numbers of Soviet troops who die. The Soviets eventually do take the city of Berlin, and on April 25th connect with U.S. troops pushing east. In the book, Morris Glass discusses this when the Soviets come in, and he talks about how the Germans were so afraid that they just wanted to, the ones that were remaining, thought they'd rather surrender to the Allies than surrender to the Russians. So a lot of them are going to start walking west to surrender to the Allies and not to the Russians. All right, and I do have a picture of that, which is interesting, the Soviet flag flying over the city of Berlin. And you see all the destruction here from the war. And the Soviets have taken, this is a clear symbol that they have taken the city of Berlin. All right, so unfortunately, sad news is that FDR does not live to see the defeat of Germany. On April 12th, while on vacation, he dies of a stroke. Vice President Harry Truman takes over, becomes the 33rd president of the United States. So you see a change in guard here. Hitler, it's written, was very pleased with the fact that he outlived FDR, for whatever that means. Hitler commits suicide then on April 30th, 1945, and on May 8th, 45, Germany surrenders. This is known as VE Day, which stands for Victory in Europe. Okay, so the Allies take Europe. That does not, however, mean that the war is over, because in fact it is still going on over in the Pacific theater with Japan. And we'll talk more about that later. So let's go back to our essential questions and make sure you can answer them. Who planned Operation Overlord? That was Eisenhower. Where and by whom would this invasion take place? It takes place in Normandy, France. What battle was the largest in the European theater? That was Bastogne, Battle of the Bulge. VE Day, Victory in Europe. Okay, and so make sure you know that, because there's going to be a victory in Japan. I also wanted to show you a couple things. Stephen Ambrose, D-Day book. He is my favorite historian. Awesome. Okay, unbelievably intellectual, and also just really great at writing so that you can understand. So I highly recommend this book if you're interested in World War II. Also wanted to show you a map. This is from, well, if I can get it on there, National Geographic, D-Day. And there's a map in here, and it's really big, and honestly I can't get it all on the screen here. But it's showing you France and the invasion here of Normandy, and how we came over through the water to have the largest amphibious attack in history. Okay, I'm finished. I hope you watched the video and took your notes. See you guys tomorrow.